Hello, welcome to today's astrology study group. And we are going to cover two things kind of at once. We're going to look at Elon Musk. He's going to be the recipient of what we're going to cover. And we're going to look at, now that we've known quite a bit, or I feel fairly confident with looking at a natal chart. You know where the sun is, you know where the moon is, you know where rising signs, you know how to look for angles. You can find, start noticing if things are the different patterns. You could look for emphasis of quality or emphasis of element. You can see if there's a whole group of planets like a stellium. You can look and notice several things like that. And then aspects, how many things are exact or very, very close. All right, once you kind of get a look, you see at what you've got in front of you. The next phase is to kind of do two things. I think the easiest one would be to look at the transits, because that seems to be more understood, because that's what's happening now. And we can just see the angles that what's happening now makes to someone. And we're going to get there, but I'm going to go a little different route at first and talk a little bit more about the progressed charts, how to look at a progressed chart, and applying that when you're looking at somebody, or ourselves, or whatever, and what you're moving into, what part of life you're moving into. So just as a recap, I'm not going to totally get into a lot of parts of him. I just want to notice. I picked him for very specific reasons. I was looking at, we are definitely at a juncture point, and these are always interesting to look at, or to listen to these videos in, years from now or months from now after these events have passed. But I picked him because I thought he would be a good reflection to look and see what's going to happen to him, because I think he is a good reflection of a lot of things happening to the world. I was thinking about, Biden. I was thinking about Trump. I was thinking about, Bolsonaro, different people around the world, Putin. But I didn't think that would be, I thought by zeroing in on one of them, they're already out there. And I don't think the events would, how do I say this? I'm trying to look at this is kind of funny, a foreshadowing of things for humanity. And I was thinking of this thing, what one person can reflect a lot that would be going on in the world. I was thinking Tucker Carlson, but then these get more locals, like the people in Scotland may not, or South, I don't know, Canary Islands may not give a hoot about him, but Elon can affect a lot of people. He's got all satellite thing going on. He's got the Tesla thing, the electric stuff. There's a lot of good and bad in this mix, and I'm not going to get into any of that at the moment. But I just want to, again, use this as a little bit of a foreshadowing of what we might expect in future, and see if we can use astrology to kind of see the seasons. Okay, I think I said that right. But nonetheless, we're gonna go from there. All right. So what do we see here? We see a early degrees Cancer sun. I don't have a good birth time, so we don't know the rising sign, and I don't know the house placement. I hate when it happens. But I would really like to have a birth time. If anybody ever has a birth time of him, that would be fantastic. But we don't, so we're not even going to bother with that. And this kind of, for me, it gives you more of a timing, to know what part of life and, where things are. But nonetheless, this is kind of more often than not. So this is probably better to use this as an example. So what we'll do here is we'll really ascertain the distances between planets and the angles and the signs, because this kind of gets around the whole sidereal aspect as well. And just because I said that, I may just cap that off or tuck that in. I like to use that as more of the spiritual, or that more esoteric side of a person, where I like to use more tropical for pretty much the mundane daily things that we're all really dealing with. Unless I had Elon sitting right here and, we had a really long conversation or talk about the spiritual aspects of a lot of this stuff, I would then involve the other parts. But because I don't, we're not going there. Okay. So sun here in Cancer, it's you can see the planet Mercury has just passed it because it's later degrees. It's gone ahead of it. The sun. We have Venus behind the sun. It's in likable Gemini. He has a lot of interests. Being Venus and Gemini. The sun and Mercury in Cancer probably gives him that general interest in humanity, I would say. Saturn over here in Gemini kind of adds to the Venus. It softens that. He's not a harsh jerk kind of person. He's much more softer. Born in the generation though of Pluto over here in Virgo, and then he's got the moon over there, but they're a little distant, so he's got that interesting, with the moon in Virgo, that's kind of I would say emotionally neurotic, or it's like it won't let you rest. It keeps things cycling over and over in your mind, emotionally nitpicky. So I mean, this might make for what he does in life, why how he became what he is. With the Pluto here, it's also making an exact sextile to Jupiter, and that could be, with Jupiter and Scorpio over there. So that's very interesting. So that could be part of where some of the wealth comes from. But anyway, that's kind of an exact, on the outer planets. So that would be the generation. He's got Uranus over here, the generation over in Libra, and that's kind of making unusual things, for others out there, or balancing stuff. And then let's see, Mars over there in Aquarius, that would be sextiling the place where it likes to be. So it's not that bad there. It's fairly happy there. It's got a lot of go energy. It's interesting that Mars there is just past the North Node. In his chart. So North Node in Aquarius too, very, where he's going into changing things for humanity. And then with Mars there, that's what I was saying, it's just kind of past it. So it's just taking that energy and moving toward that material goal, as well as that Aquarian and all things Aquarian, out there, holding your own kite string, putting all the satellites out, humanity, yada, yada. Okay, that's just a quick looky-see at that. I don't want to go too deep, but just wanted to give you rounded out about that. Now, what would be the next thing? We know that this is where he was born. So I want to see now where things have progressed, and then again, we could look at other layers. We can see if there's stationary planets and whatnot. But anyway, I'm going to just go look at, let's do it this way. Let's see. I have lots of these things open. Hopefully you can see this. Let me stop share and just reshare, making sure that you have it. Let me get this one. All right. Okay, so this is his secondary progressions to now, and I'll compare them with the other ones in just a second, which will make it a little easier to see. But you can also see that we've got a little tighter. Actually, let me do that. Let me do it to his natal. Do biwheel. Natal on the inner progress. There we go. And I'll just make sure that you can see that. All right. So we'll see his natal chart on the inner wheel, and the outer wheel are his progressions for this year, 2022. All right. So it's funny. Okay, so let's look over here let's go from the outer planets in. So okay, so remember his natal is on the inner and his progressed is on the outer. So Pluto hasn't moved. It usually doesn't very much, but sometimes it changes sign, and we can see here that it may change signs in his lifetime. We'd have to go progress and see. his, let's just go in that order too. Let's go look at Neptune. Neptune is still at 0 degrees. It hasn't changed. And again, we can't see if it's going to change houses, which would be interesting because that would be the different part of life that something would happen. If something went from the eighth to the ninth house, that's huge. But anyway, we got to just do what we can do. We can bitch about it all day, right? Let's go look at his Mars. Okay, so his Mars when he was born, okay, so it's gone, it was retrograde. So look, it's gone retrograde. It's gone retrograde. It'd be interesting to go actually look. This would be fun, but for sake of time, we can see that now it's getting closer to, as he's progressing, it's getting closer to his north node. Oh, isn't that interesting now? That I would circle that because look at here, right? It's almost there right now, and he's getting closer and closer to certain things. He just bought Twitter. He's maybe going to put certain people back on. So this is something to watch, definitely. So this is what I was saying, how he might be a instrument to kind of judge the climate of what we have ahead. It would be different if his Mars were forward. It would have already passed that. But we already know that the North Node deals with material things, material possessions, the material world, and Mars is moving toward that. It's retrograding toward that. Isn't that interesting? I mean, the nodes are retrograde anyway, but look how much it's gone here in his lifetime. It's gone 6 degrees back. It's almost right there on top of it. But we'll look more in a minute. Okay, couldn't help but notice that Saturn has moved forward into 5 degrees. No big deal. It's just gone further in there. Let's see, it's Gemini and his sun, all that's going to progress. We'll get to the moon in a minute. Gemini has progressed from, Gemini's progressed. Venus has progressed from being in Gemini late degrees, and then it progressed all the way through Cancer, and now it's like almost at the end of Leo. So it's gone into Leo. His sun has progressed into Leo. You can see that it's almost out of that. So this last, he was born with it back here in Cancer. So probably the beginning part of his life was he was more shy and maybe more, I don't know. I know nothing about him other than just very basic stuff. But anyway, that would be interesting to see, it being born a Cancer, they're much more sensitive and maybe shy or unassuming, not like very noisy. But since he's progressed into Leo, things have been rocking and rolling. Like he's 25 degrees into Leo now. So he's, last 25 years of his life, he's about ready to move into Virgo, which will be interesting because when his sun catches up, progressed sun catches up with his natal moon and then over to his Pluto, that's going to be interesting too, but that's way on ahead. But we can see what's coming. Not too far ahead because it's like a degree a year. All right, let's carry on. So we know, okay, so Venus is already up here too. So he's got eight children, I guess, or eight children, 3 been married or with people, several. So he's gone through all of that, and then being much more open and out there, Venus in Leo. Progressed Mercury, it was in Cancer and then now it's progressed into Virgo. So he's much more meticulous, much more. His mind is just detail oriented, and look at it's just approaching his moon. Another telltale sign. Let's see, so it's in a retrograde phase here. Okay, so we have to go look and see when we're retrograded, but it may be past that, and it may have hit that and gone over it. See, it says retrograde, so I don't know if it just turned or if it has gone and it's coming back. So that's something we can look further, but again, I just have to show you the outer part of this, and then you can always dig more. So I would be interested to know that, but that's very interesting. He might have been, let's just say it was conjuncting his moon, by progression, or it's nearly so. But what if it was a few years ago and it's coming back? Well, maybe that's when he became more known. Maybe he decided more, vocally to share his emotions or his inner stuff, the moon. Okay, so without belaboring that, I think you get that. So we're seeing how where he was, things were when he was born to where they are now. Where they are now. I think I kind of got most things for you. So we look at that. Then I'm looking to see sign changes, and we can't see house changes, but we can see sign changes. So this year also, look at the moon is progressed into Leo. It was in Cancer the last every 2.5 years, I believe the moon, it's about that, progresses into a new sign. So he's now into clicking into Leo. That gives me another sign. So there's now three things that's showing me that he's certain things are indicating moving and shaking from this guy, and maybe a very progressive movement for humanity. So just to recap, we have the Mars over, getting, progressing closer to his north node. He's got Mars over north node. And then he's also has, or either just had or will have, Mercury over his moon. And what was the other one? Venus and his sun have gone into Leo, and his moon is just now, this year it's 0 degrees. It just opened, going into that. So that and the Mars thing kind of, Mars on the north node kind of give me the indication that he's one to watch. This is an indication of some things to come. And look at, and then these are opposing as well. His emotions are going to start to oppose his Mars going over the north node. Who knows how that's going to be, but it's an opposing thing. Maybe it looks at different points of view. I don't know, but I'm just pointing out what we see. And we know that there is something here. And with anything with the moon and the nodes and Mars, it's going to be something to watch. It's not a demure aspect. All right, let's move on. Let me go to I want the wheels that I have all these wheels within wheels. Is this the one I want? Let me get it, and then I'll switch you over. That one. Yeah. Okay. Let me make sure you got the right one. I'm sharing. Yeah, this one. Okay. Don't get confused. All right. What we're going to see here is 3 years of progressed charts. If you look over on the right, it'll say the inner ring, and then it's got the date. It's for, because I did it for today, it's progressed. I did last year's 2021 for this day, right now on the middle one, and then next year, 2023. So we're going to just look and see what happens. So let's look at the moon. And well, it's just kind of right here. So last year, it was, we had that this time. So I told you it goes like about 2.5 years. So last year in November, you can see it was just half after the half point of Cancer. And then just now, maybe yesterday, today, a couple days ago, whatever, it progressed into Leo. And next year, it's only going to be about halfway through Leo. So we've got look forward to 2 years of that. That's interesting. Venus, you can see why, let me see, 21, 22, 23. Interesting. Oh, it must have been retrograde here. Yeah, it must have been retrograde. Have to look. It must have just went direct. Anyway, last year he had 23 Venus up here, 23 Leo. Then it goes to 22. That's what I was wondering. And then 24. So anyway, they're about the same. Nothing has changed. The sun. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, Carrie, isn't that other way around?
There it is. I'm sorry. It's over here, 24. It's going backward. There we go. That's what I'm looking at. That's not lined up right. Okay, so inner ring, the 21, you can see it progressing forward. There we go. That's what I'm looking at. And then the sun is progressing a degree. They're all a degree. There we go. That's what I'm wanting to say. Pretty much a degree at a time. That's what I'm seeing. And then here's Mercury retrograde in his chart, then progressed Mercury retrograding. Okay, so that's what we were wondering, whether it had already hit his moon, his natal moon. There we go. That's what I wanted to say. So we have here, if it kind of gets googly, but remember the inner chart, you go look, was last year. And we see his Mercury there at 9 degrees and his moon was at 10, right? So it had already done that. So he had just come out. Now it's moving further away. The Plutos aren't going to move very much. The others, those aren't going to move, the outer planets. There they are. We don't know the ascendant, the nodes. Let me move this down. Look down here. Mars. So we can just see, we can see Mars retrograding because last year was 15, 14. You can see it's like probably by next year, it'll be right on it. This is the year it's going to be moving right over that. Okay, so to sum this part up, you can see they don't move. Most of the stuff doesn't move that much at one time. The sun is going to move about a degree a year and Venus about a degree a year, unless the planets are are retrograding or stationing, then you'll find it a faster, or slower movement. The moon is what you'll see. It's like you'll know that it'll be a year. It's like if it's 2.5 years, it's not quite, it's what is it? It's not quite a third per time. It's a little bit less. So what else do I want to say about this before I switch it? That's about it. And if you know the houses, you can also again look for, not only the planet changing sign or coming into an angle, but like what house it might be moving into. Let me just mention one other thing too about something coming into an angle. You can see, it's like what I'm trying to find something for you here. Well, just the same thing like with Mars. Let's go look here. And it's coming into a conjunction, but there's probably some other things I'm not seeing right now that because there's so many things up there. But if you were seeing, well, we'll just use Mars. It's coming into it was at 15 up here, and it's coming closer and closer to a conjunction with his 13 degrees of the North Node. If he had something at say fifth, or maybe he had something at say 13 degrees in it, maybe an outer planet, maybe the Mars would have been closing in on say a square to that outer planet, and you would be like, okay, next year it's going to be exact, and then it'll be exact for 2 years or 4 years or whatever. So we can look at those things as well. I think I pretty much hit on that. All right, now I don't want to get too complicated with things because it easily gets kind of crazy. Is this let's see, transits? Okay, let me make sure you have this one. All right, we're back to a little bit easier. We got 2 charts now. I really just wanted to show you that because sometimes you need to see the year back where you're at now and the year ahead to kind of see just a little bit more of where something is. And with the Mars thing with him, we saw that it was definitely tracking, closer to that North Node. All right, so here's inner ring is his tropical, his natal chart. You can always look over, and then we have the outer ring as the current transits to his natal. So that's another way to do this. And we could, I don't want to do the 3 charts, but we could do the natal, and then you do that next ring would be the progressed, and then the outer ring from that could be the transits. It could, that would be kind of how I would do it, but we don't know the house placement, so there's really no need to do that because just we don't need to because it's not moving into that area. So what he's got going on now, we can look and see, and this is what you do with yourself, and you don't need a computer program to do this. You can just go look a lot of the stuff up in the ephemeris totally and just write it around it. And I did that for years. It's just nicer when you're showing people to do it this way. But right now we know this. We got the sun down here over in Scorpio, 9 degrees. We've got all these other planets here in Scorpio. And, what else do we know? We've got our Pluto at 26, Capricorn. We got Moon today in Aquarius, getting real close to the conjuncting Saturn. All right, this is all current stuff. So we can go look and see what currently he's got happening. So again, like kind of like to start on the outer and then go inner. So look here, let's go look at Pluto. And is it making any aspects to anything in his chart? Now remember, there was something at 27. So he's got the 27 Jupiter. So let's see, that would be 2 signs away. So that's a sextile. So Pluto and Jupiter, a sextile. That's nice. You know, I mean, for something to be next to Pluto, having it be a nicer angle. And that's interesting too, because if he's going to be buying Twitter and reinstating people or not, or whatever, you know, he's got to deal with a lot of structure and limitations. But having Jupiter there, it shows some intensity, especially in Scorpio, and having a nice aspect with that. But then what's Pluto doing there? So Pluto to Pluto. So we've got Earth and Earth. So there's a trine there. And I think that's another kind of go sign. And then from the other way around with Jupiter is kind of in the midpoint of this trine. You know, it would be sextile his own, and then sextile to where it's currently positioned. So actually, as Pluto moves ahead to 27, things will click more in. Another indication of him being a someone to watch for how things may go. So here we got, as Pluto moves ahead, it's going to make even better angle to his natal Jupiter and his natal Pluto. How fortunate is that? I mean, it's going to change, you know, but right now we're looking at right now and how, I mean, things, I think this is a go for him having some say with things. Again, I'm not, you know, there's parts of his stuff I like, there's parts again I don't like, but I'm not getting into all that. But just to watch somebody to see some of the effects in society. All right, Pluto, anything else? I think that was the only thing at those later degrees. How about Neptune? Because that's always a disillusion area. Where's Neptune? It's funny when you start looking, you can't see it. Oh, right over here. Neptune 22 Pisces. Well, might as well kind of look at that whole group there. We got and Jupiter just went into Pisces. So Jupiter, because it's at 29 degrees, let me look at that first, because we just talked about Pluto, you know, all that at 27. So this is going to back up. I believe it'll go to 25. I can't remember, but it will then make some angles here to these 27ers. So we've got, okay, so transiting Jupiter, that would be a mutable sign, water, trining over to this Jupiter. Look at that, water to water. And as that gets closer, I mean, it did, right, when it was in Pisces, and then it went into Aries, and now it's going to hit it again, and then it hit it one more time. Another indication of him jumping into some limelights. I mean, these are really good aspects, really good. You know, him buying Twitter, him maybe making some moving and shaking in the world. I'm kind of encouraged by looking at this. How about over here to Pluto? So let's see, Jupiter, or this transiting one to his natal Pluto. So we would have an opposition with that one. So of course you can't have everything totally, but this might be interesting because in his chart, you know, we had a sextile. I mean, he's born with a sextile, but then now by transit, he's got it by opposition, Jupiter, with these other things, you know, with the trines and the sextiles that I just said. So that's interesting. It's going to give him some bouncing off of, you know, some others. I think that's very interesting. I'm kind of encouraged to see that, because it's going to be a different point of view. Wow. Okay, back over here to Neptune. Anything at these 20 some degrees is Venus. So here's a trine. You know, it already went over the Venus because there's mutable water. Am I right? Let's see. Wait, no. Mutable, no, square. I'm sorry. So squaring it. So mutable to mutable. So it had already squared his Venus. So that could be disillusionment in something, could be relationships. that could be something current too. I mean, with whatever it is. And again, we don't know the houses, so it's hard to speculate. But anyway, we've got that. If it goes, I'm not sure how far. I don't know if it'll go. In fact, I should see real quick. Well, it doesn't matter. It may not. It may go over Venus, squared exactly, but it has already. So what else we got here? Uranus 17 degrees. What do we got? Anything there? It's retrograde, but it's going to get closer. That's only semi-sextile. It'll be interesting when it actually goes through the next sign, and it's going to go over as it gets further on. As it moves into the next sign, it will go over his Saturn and then go over his Venus. Like, we know that it's like 7 years per sign. So 7 years from now, it will be, approaching his Venus. That will be interesting. In a few years, like what, maybe 3 years, it will be approaching his Saturn. That will be interesting as well. So this is some of the things that you can use to, I mean, with anyone, you look ahead and we can see about how long something's going to take. And so this is going to be going over here, by conjunction, but I did not look around what else, that could be by other angles. We'll be making some angles here to his nodes. In fact, it already did. See, 16. No, it's gonna, as it goes, yeah, it already did. Yeah, I think it's gonna go retrograde over that again. So anyway, it squared his nodes, Uranus. So maybe that was some of the stuff that came out of the blue. Oh, Elon's gonna buy Twitter. Oh my God. Oh, that was like maybe some of all that stuff that squares usually bring surprising things like that. And again, he's got Mars over at the North Node, so that wouldn't surprise me that's finances on the big level affecting many things. Okay, so Uranus over there. All right, so we can just go round and round and keep looking at some of that stuff, but I think I've made my point with how you can look at this and get closer and closer to the inner planets, which tell you more, because more things that happen in the shorter time. The outer planets don't move so far; they'll be there longer times. But when something changes, it's very significant. The inner planets move faster and give you more impact, especially the moon. We see that, it's kind of like a timing mechanism. So transiting, I mean, that's where we look at daily things. But definitely you look at the sun and Mercury, because that gets you your yearly stuff. And then, as Mercury goes through making, its aspects, and then Venus. So these give you more of the daily things, and then the outer planets a little longer. Okay, so that is basically how we use progressed charts and transits to just kind of hone in on what's going on in someone, in your life and somebody else's life. So I hope that helps, and we'll talk more on the next class. Bye for now.